Hello, today we have a mysterious story about a mysterious girl called Lili Johanna, the Bug Girl, La Chica de los Bichos. This is a stag beetle. Stag beetle. You need to know that. Okay, here we go. Lili Johanna Toro was a strange girl. She wasn't just strange, she was positively weird. She had a morbid fascination for all animals which crawled and wriggled and scared most people. From when she was a tiny girl, she was always pulling the wings off flies, sticking cockroaches in glass jars, and generally making all insects' life hell. Her parents were constantly telling Lili to stop torturing these poor defenseless mites, but she never paid them any attention and continued to torment them whenever she got a chance. As she got older, it was obvious that Lili wasn't going to find it easy to get a boyfriend, as she had a reputation for being someone you definitely wouldn't want to take home and meet your mother. She spent most of her time lifting up rocks and digging away at the ground, looking for any bugs she could find. And most of her school friends gave her lots of space and freedom to do this. Let's say that Lili never got invited to parties, never had friends calling her front door, and certainly never had anyone she could call her best friend. Lili's family had become used to her odd behaviour after so many years and were accustomed to all the comments from family members who came to visit and always managed to take a peek inside Lili's room for themselves. But Lili was loved all the same. She never bothered anyone and always did her chores and finished her homework, so her parents decided to let her do whatever she wanted, hoping that one day she would grow out of it. Eventually, Lili left home and went to live in a small bungalow in the middle of an old wood, miles from anyone, and no one came to visit, and no one knew where she lived. Lili spent her time lifting rocks and digging in the ground and plucking the wings and legs off the insects she found there. Lili was in heaven. Insect heaven. Down in the depths of the earth, deep, deep down, where no one goes and no one can hear what is being said, the Council of Advanced Anthropods was holding a crisis meeting. Scaraboo Scuttle, a large, old, wise stag beetle, was conducting the proceedings, trying to get some order among all the ants, beetles, earwigs, and spiders that were crammed into the deep hole. It was a very large hole, but there were hundreds of thousands of insects crawling over each other to get as close to the front as possible, and Scaraboo Scuttle was having difficulties making himself heard. "Friends! Friends! Friends!" he shouted. "Please, settle down now. Friends, quiet, please." Finally, a hush settled in the hole, and Scaraboo Scuttle had everyone's attention. "Now, I'm not going to waste any time hearing from prosecution witnesses, because I think we all know why we are here." There was a loud roar and cheer, and antennae waved around in agreement. The old wise beetle continued. "This monstrous girl has to be stopped. We cannot continue like this." The insects started to make noises of agreement, but he stopped them and continued. "This girl has been destroying families by killing our hunters and food gatherers for many years now, and we need to fight back. The time for talking and complaining has ended. It is time for action." Scarabow's Scuttle then proceeded to explain his plan to the hushed audience, and everyone nodded as he went through the details slowly and carefully so that no one misunderstood him. At the end of the meeting, everyone cheered and applauded and went off to prepare for Lili Storm. That night, after dark, the insects made their move. They waited until all the lights were out in Lili's house, and then they moved forward. They sneaked in, under the doors, through the windows, through the chimney, under the floorboards, through the ventilation grills, and through any crack or hole they could find. It isn't known exactly how many insects were involved that night, but estimates range between 50,000 to 100,000, depending on who you talk to. As Lili slept, the termites were the first to go in, making holes in her closet, chest of drawers, and bedside table, so that the other animals could get inside. Then the termites turned their attention to the bed. They started at the bottom of the bed's legs and began devouring the wood. As one termite's stomach became full, there were 100 waiting to take over behind him, and gradually Lili's bed started to get lower and lower and lower to the floor. While this was going on, the moths went into Lili's closet and started eating her clothes. They started with her jackets, then her dresses, and then her skirts, and finally they ate up all her scarves and hats which she had bought over the years. Just like the termites, when one moth was full and he would come out of the closet, and another moth was waiting to take its place. Now, all this activity happened in almost complete silence. Even termites can eat quietly when they have to. The termites did their thing. The moths completed their tasks, and the other insects tried their best to do what they had been told. Lili's bedside table presented most of the problems. There were some strange objects inside this cabinet, with which they were not prepared for. There were things with strange shapes, with cables, and no one knew what to do with them. One object in particular caused most problems. It was a long, smooth, rounded object with a cable, and the insects were scared to touch it. Someone told them that they should stay as far away from this strange object as possible until someone could come and identify it. Finally, an older spider crept in through the hole and took a look at this mysterious device. "Ah, yes," he said. "I have seen girls using these in the past." Everyone was silent as they listened intently to the wise old arachnid. "Yes, many girls use these at night behind closed doors because they don't want anyone seeing them use it. Indeed, they can be very dangerous because when they are hot, accidents can happen." Finally, one of the little earwigs plucked up enough courage to ask the question on everyone's lips. "But sir, what is it? What does it do?" The old spider thought for a second and said, "Well, I can't lie to you. I don't know the correct name because I've never heard a girl speak when she uses one. However, I can answer your second question. This strange item is for making girls' hair curly. They put one end in the electricity, then it gets very hot, and they put it in their hair and start turning it around and around. After a few minutes, their hair changes shape. "So, will it burn us if we touch, sir?" someone asked. "No," said the spider. "It is safe all the time. It is not connected to the electricity in the wall. You can take it away with no problems." So, after calling the termites to come and widen the hole in the cabinet, a few hundred ants and earwigs laboured and struggled, but eventually managed to extract the curling tongs from the house, along with all her makeup, pens, nail clippers, mirrors, batteries, tweezers, elastic bands, and anything the moths and termites couldn't eat. There were a few arguments about the cotton wool balls because the new ones tasted wonderful, but Lili had thrown some of the used old cotton wool balls back in the drawer, and some of the animals refused to eat those ones. So, picture this scene. The bed and all the furniture in the bedroom have been slowly eaten away to nothing by the termites. And the bedbugs and creepy crawlies have invested Lili's mattress, and the moths have digested her sheets, nightdress, blanket, clothes, towels, curtains and carpet. In a nutshell, Lili is lying naked on an insect-infested piece of foam in the middle of a bare room with no furniture and no curtains. The insects, most of which could hardly move because they were so full, moved into their places. Then in came the orchestra. The crickets arrived, hopping and jumping and springing in through the window, and took their places silently around Lili's bed. Then finally old Scaraboo Scuttle made his way up the wall and through the window, helped by some of the younger insects. Scaraboo surveyed the work done by the insects and nodded his approval. Every type of insect was represented in Lili's room as she continued sleeping, completely unaware of her impending doom. And the fate that awaited her was very dark and very sinister, and no human had ever met their end in such a macabre manner, ever in the history of the planet Earth. When Scaraboo gave the sign, the crickets immediately started rubbing their legs together as fast as they could, and every insect in the room started flapping its wings and clicking its feet. The noise grew and grew and grew, and in an instant the noise entered Lili's dreams and into her consciousness as she realized that this was not part of any dream. She woke up in an instant, confused in the dark by this deafening cacophony of sounds. She couldn't see a thing, but she was aware of the cold, aware of her nakedness, aware that something was wrong. Something was very, very, very wrong. Scaraboo gave the word, and the mayflies started to vibrate and generate their electricity, and in a matter of seconds the room was illuminated by hundreds of white bugs flying over Lili as she lay naked on her mattress on the floor. And then she saw. Then she saw everything. The bare room filled with thousands or millions of bugs of all shapes and sizes, all staring at her. She felt them crawling over her body, under her body, and now she felt them going inside her body. Lili Johanna Toro let out a scream like no other human had ever screamed, and her mouth opened, and as she opened her mouth, hundreds of bugs flew inside her mouth, followed by thousands more. No noise could come out of her mouth because her vocal cords were covered in insects, pouring into her convulsing, terrified body, and her airways were filled with flies and wasps and bees and cockroaches. On every centimetre of her body, insects began to bite and sting her, and her body became paralysed with thousands of shots of venom, but her brain and eyes continued to function as she came to terms with her imminent death. Finally, she succumbed to the pain and the lack of oxygen, and her body lay there, limp and lifeless. The bugs continued to enter her body through any hole they could find and started to lay eggs anywhere they could find a warm, juicy, wet spot. Thousands of insects laid hundreds of thousands of eggs, and one by one they exited the body and left the bungalow and returned to their homes. Scaraboo's scuttle remained until the end, when the last insect had gone, and he walked quietly over to Lili Johanna Toro's body and said, "You have taken the lives of thousands of insects in your life, and now you will be the food and the sustenance for thousands more to take their place. May God have mercy on your soul." And with those last words, he left Lili alone to provide food and protection for the next generation of insects to walk the ground around her bungalow. No one ever knew what happened to her, and no one asked. Bye.